Welcome back to the new episode of What's Up Media, an academic activity by Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapith's Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. In this episode, we will briefly talk about three major recent global affairs related to India and its development. On the backdrop of various ongoing activities on the international canvas, learning about these issues is necessary and important from the developmental point of view of India. These three updates are: number 1, World Bank's report on upcoming global recession; number 2, ongoing COP27, that is United Nations Climate Change Conference, which is happening in Egypt; and number 3 is ongoing G20 Summit happening in the city of Bali of Indonesia. First update is about the Washington DC based World Bank office has published a study in September titled "Is Global Recession Imminent?" In this policy note, World Bank highlights the need for policies to curb inflation without exacerbating recession risk. Let us now get more information from our one-off student.
Just 2 years after the pandemic-induced global recession of 2020, the world economy is again facing difficult challenges. As growth is slowing sharply, fears of an impending global recession are rising. Stagflationary pressures are also mounting as inflation reaches new multi-decade high in many countries. Geopolitical tensions are casting a long shadow over global growth prospects, with the Russian Federation's invasion of Ukraine magnifying pre-existing supply-side challenges and intensifying volatility in commodity markets. As central banks across the world simultaneously hike interest rates in response to inflation, the world may be edging towards a global recession in 2023 and a string of financial crises in emerging markets and developing economies that would do them lasting harm, according to this new comprehensive study. Central banks around the world have been raising interest rates this year with a degree of synchronicity not seen over the past 5 decades, a trend that is likely to continue well into next year, according to the report. Yet, the currently expected trajectory of interest rate increases and other policy actions may not be sufficient to bring global inflation back down to levels seen before the pandemic. The study found that the world's 3 largest economies, that are the United States, China, and the Euro area, have been slowing sharply. Under the circumstances, even a moderate hit to the global economy over the next year could tip it into recession. Further, it said the global economy was now in its steepest slowdown following a post-recession recovery since 1970, and consumer confidence had already dropped more sharply than in the run-up to previous global recessions. While adding his worry that these trends would persist with devastating consequences for emerging markets and developing economies, World Bank President David Malpass said, "Global growth is slowing sharply, with further slowing likely as more countries fall into recession. Inflation, which is the rate at which price rises, hit a 40-year high in the US and UK in recent months. On similar lines, India's rupee is also racing towards its highest peak historically in comparison with the US dollar. Developing countries are also being affected by the shortage of fertilizers, food, and energy," Mr. Malpass said.
With this, let us now move on to our second topic of discussion. An important global event is now happening in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. World leaders are discussing action to tackle climate change at the COP27 Climate Summit in Egypt. Let's hear more from our next student.
The United Nations Climate Change Summit, popularly known as Conference of Parties or COP27, opened in Egypt on Sunday with inclusion of loss and damage finance in the official agenda, and India hoping that fair negotiation on it would follow. COP27 is scheduled to run from November 6 to 18. PM Modi and Putin will skip the climate summit, while over 120 heads of state and government are expected to attend the conference, including US President Joe Biden and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Let us now have a look on what COP27 actually is and why it is important as given in BBC report by Esme Stallard. What is COP27? United Nations Climate Summit are held every year for governments to agree steps to limit global temperature rises. They are referred to as COP, which stand for Conference of the Parties. The parties are attending countries that signed up to the original UN Climate Agreement in 1992. COP27 is the 27th annual UN meeting on climate. It is taking place in Sharm el-Sheikh until 18th of November. Why COP27 is important? The world is warming because of emission produced by humans, mostly from burning fossil fuels like oil, gas and coal. Global temperature have risen 1.1 degrees centigrade and are heading towards 1.5 degrees centigrade. According to the UN's climate scientists, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC), if temperature rises 1.7 to 1.8 Celsius above 1850s level, the IPCC estimates that half the world population could be exposed to life-threatening heat and humidity. To prevent this, 194 countries signed the Paris Agreement in 2015, pledged to pursue efforts to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 Celsius. What will be discussed at COP27? Ahead of the meeting, countries were asked to submit emission national climate plans. Only 25 have done so to date. COP27 will focus on three main areas. First, reducing emission. Second, helping countries to prepare for and deal with climate change. Third, securing technical support and funding for developing countries for the above. Some areas are not fully resolved or covered at COP26 will be picked up. Loss and damage finance money to help countries recover from the effect of climate change rather than just prepare for it. Establishment of a global carbon market to price effects of emission into product and service globally. Strengthen the commitment to reduce coal use. There will also be themed days on issues including gender, agriculture and biodiversity.
It was really interesting to get details about the last global event. With this, now let us move on to our third and last topic of the episode. The G20 leaders will meet for a two-day summit hosted by the Indonesian G20 presidency in Bali. Let's hear more from our student.
Under the theme Recover Together, Recover Stronger, the G20 leaders will discuss, among the other topics, the three priorities of Indonesia's G20 presidency. First, global health architecture. Second, digital transformations. Third, sustainable energy transitions. The G20 is an intergovernmental forum that connects the world's major economies. G20 members include Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Mexico, the Republic of Korea, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union. Spain is also invited as a permanent guest. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the Tuesday 15th of November underlined the need for not promoting any restrictions on the supply of energy and called for ensuring stability while once again emphasizing on resolving the Ukraine conflict through diplomacy. In an address at the G20 Summit, Modi said that climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, the developments in the Ukraine and the global problem associated with it have caused havoc in the world as the global supply chains are in ruins. The Prime Minister's call for not putting any restrictions on energy supplies came amid the West's calls against procurement of Russian oil and gas in view of Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. While Indonesian President Joko Widodo told G20 members they must avoid another world war as he opened a leaders' summit dominated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in Bali on Tuesday. We should not divide the world into parts. We must not allow the world to fall into another world war, he said in remarks before the summit's first session.
So let us hope this G20 summit will be beneficial for the global interest. So this is all for this episode of What's Up Media. We will meet again in our next episode of What's Up Media with some fresh topics around media and communication industry. Till then, hit the like button and do not forget to share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you and see you again.